We're here today to finally take an action that is long overdue in reference to the rogue prosecutor for Baltimore City, Marilyn Mosby. Mosby is abusing her authority and committing a violation of the Constitution. As the prosecutor for the city of Baltimore, she does not have the authority to pick and choose laws or select enforcement. She's not a legislator and she's not a governor. She does not have the power to change or overturn existing legislation. She will say that she has discretion, prosecutorial discretion, but that only comes into force for individual cases, not large pieces and portions of the law. So she's violating the law and the Constitution for the benefit of criminals, which she says are low-level criminals, which she is wrong about. These people who are dealing drugs are generally connected to and work for larger organizations. So the money and the drug dealing goes upstream. Urinating on a sidewalk or a private business or a home, all of these things cannot be tolerated. Here is Marilyn Mosby's world. I'll give you an example of it. There's an elderly couple living in a row home in West Baltimore, actually imprisoned in their row home, and 50 feet away on a corner, there are young men dealing drugs. One of them is urinating on the business on the corner. Another one is selling prostitution. And right across the street from this corner is a police car with 2 officers sitting in it doing nothing. The only people suffering in this picture of Mosby's world is the elderly couple or the young single mother who lives down the street with a young daughter. That's Mosby's world. A lot of people have complained. A lot of people have offered concern. This is the first time somebody is doing something about it, at least challenging. I'm former state legislator Pat McDonough. I know the legislature and I know its authority and responsibility. With me today is Wayne Markey from Respect the Constitution nonprofit law firm, and we are challenging in court Mosby's unlawful and unconstitutional actions, and we'll see what the courts have to say about it. There will be other plaintiffs joining. This is only the announcement of the launching of the lawsuit. We will be seeking, and we have received at least 4 other co-plaintiffs who are residents of Baltimore City. There will be more. I'm going to turn it.
Will be filing a lawsuit, or the lawsuit has been filed?
We can give you a copy of the lawsuit. We will not file it until we have a certain number of co-plaintiffs from Baltimore City. And we believe by announcing that we are doing it, we will attract a lot of attention, which we have already. So the people will say, well, you're from Baltimore County. Mosby is a state official. She is failing to enforce state laws, which I helped to create. We also believe that these laws that she is failing to enforce are a violation of state law. I'll give you an example. If you're in Baltimore County and you're dealing pot, for example, and you get arrested, you're going to go to jail probably. In Baltimore City, a same person dealing pot will go home. That's unequal enforcement and that's unequal justice under the law. So there are so many different consequences to what Mosby is doing. And these are not minor violations. In the drug world, the biggest industry in the city of Baltimore is the drug industry. And these young people who are selling marijuana and cocaine and fentanyl are connected to the big boys. They are not independent operators. You cannot be an independent drug dealer in Baltimore City. You must be connected to an organized larger group. So she's not doing anybody any favors and she's also providing an incentive to young people. She's demonstrating to them, in our city, you can break the law and nothing will happen. And that is a terrible message to send to young people.
You're preparing to file this lawsuit. What about the state leaders that you mentioned in your release? Bill Ferguson, we have Brooke Learman, Luke Clippinger. What is your
the state legislators in the General Assembly are part of the problem. In fact, they are the problem when it comes to crime. The state legislators in Maryland I refer to as criminal politicians. The gentleman who represents this community, Luke Clippinger, is the chairman and the boss of the most powerful crime committee in the House of Delegates. He has killed, in the last session of the legislature, every piece of anti-crime legislation that came to his committee. He has passed numerous pro-criminal pieces of legislation, plus all of the anti-police legislation. So the gentleman that represents this community is one of the most, if not the most powerful politicians in the state, as the boss and chairman of that crime committee, and he is pro-criminal. I call these people criminal politicians. The president of the Maryland Senate, the most powerful politician in state politics, represents this district. In the Senate, he supports pro-criminal legislation and the anti-police agenda. So two of the most powerful politicians in the state represent this community, and they're anti-crime prevention, and they're pro-criminal, and I call them criminal politicians. All of the crime in the city of Baltimore and the state of Maryland will never, ever be fixed by police. It has to be fixed by the powerful politicians in Annapolis, and they are part of the problems, and they are causing the crime.
So am I hearing you're calling on those politicians to draft up legislation to help the crime problem here in Baltimore City?
They can, they have the authority, they will not. They are pro-criminal. They have demonstrated their careers are clear. They have a record of voting for pro-criminal legislation. For example, juveniles who murder people, they voted for a bill that lets them out after 20 years that they can't serve life. They voted for a whole bunch of bills, and they also voted for all the anti-cop bills in the last session. These politicians are committed to advocating for criminals. Now, here's what I want. The people of Maryland and the people of Fells Point do not understand this. This needs to be made public and clear by the media and by us. So we have formed the Stop the Criminal Politicians movement. And the first thing we want is a special session of the General Assembly on crime. And we want the governor to call that session and to introduce a whole package of anti-crime bills, which he did. He actually did in the last session, and Clippinger killed all of them. Killed them all. The governor should introduce them again. That special session should be on public television so the people of this state can witness these politicians destroying their communities with blood on their hands by voting against anti-crime bills and voting against cops.